Hello, this is Tara Galliano, and this is my live. And I'm going to be speaking with my friend Mary, who has many aliases, and we're talking about boundaries today. And I'm just waiting to see if Mary can get on. I
Okay,
hear
how about now?
you, Mary.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Yay.
I'm so
We are
sorry.
we're so savvy. I love it.
Oh, good. Good. Well,
Well,
I'm glad to
you
be
look
here with you.
lovely today. It's so
Well,
good to
thank
see
you. I
you.
actually pulled my act together for this very moment.
But what
It
I love
doesn't
about
happen
the,
often, so enjoy.
I'm enjoying it. I mean, what I remember from your last video is that you had multiple looks, and I like this look.
Well,
Hey, Michelle, thanks so much for joining us.
so today we're going to talk about boundaries, huh?
We are. Woof. Because boundaries, I see this again and again in the work that I do with couples. I see boundaries are really critical. And at least in my experience, I wasn't raised with good boundaries. I hate to say that. Sorry, mom, but it's true.
Well, when you're in a large family, it seems like those have a tendency to disintegrate, because you
Mhm,
had to go along to get along. And so that
mhm.
happens quite regularly, and we don't learn how to articulate our boundaries. So yeah, I
That's
get it.
true. Yeah. And I was in a small family. There were only three of us, my mom and my
Oh,
brother and me. And so even then,
yes. Well, see, and I was the youngest of eight, so very often they even didn't even know I wasn't there. They'd have to do a head count and go, "We're
oh my,
missing one." So
oh my goodness.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
we are getting.
how did you learn boundaries then?
Yeah, I had to learn it by strength. So, if I wanted my things to be respected, I had to demand it. And so that wasn't a healthy way to articulate boundaries. And now I see an intimate behavior. You don't want to yell at the person. It kind of is a buzzkill, right? It's like
Yeah.
you're going to get all sexy, and then you go, "Don't do that." And
Mhm.
and for myself, it's learning how to say the boundaries with an open heart. And that's the challenge, because when it happens, when you're starting to move into that intimate space, and then you get a touch or a feeling that you don't like, we are never taught how to, graciously and open-hearted with our lover say, "Oh gosh, this doesn't feel right to me. Would you mind?" And giving some instruction. And then when it's moved, do we say, "Thank you, that feels so much better"?
Mhm.
What we end up doing is just getting angry or upset. But what I found now is when I have a new partner, a new lover that I bring into my life, and then you start slowly with, this is what I like and this is what I don't like. And that's what the whole dating process is about, is starting to establish those boundaries in a way that can be respected.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great example. I love how you clearly articulated that. And what I find is that most couples don't know how to do that. At least they're coming to see me in sex therapy and they don't know how to do that.
Sure.
And what I find is that learning how to do that outside of the bedroom, and when I say that, I mean to practice to say no, because there is a sense of acquiescing and this sense of complacency that kind of overrides the relationship because habitual patterns reign, and being able to say no clearly, no, that doesn't work for me, and the other person responding and not taking it personally. And the best response I've heard that I learned recently was no, right? And you can say thank you for taking care of yourself, and I love that because it's kind. And it could be as simple as no, I don't want to do the dishes, and the other person saying thank you for taking care of yourself, if it's in a
Yeah.
real situation. And then it can be transferred to the bedroom because those are transferable skills. But when we don't know how to do it, in mundane life, it's like when things are heightened, and
Mm-hmm.
we're feeling vulnerable in a sexual context, it's harder to say no.
Yeah. And, it's funny when you say that, like, I don't want to do the dishes. What did my mother gave me a swat on the knowledge, not in the back of the head, and said, you're going to do it anyway. And so,
Exactly.
so we don't have a good example of how that works. And so coming in with a coach or a therapist, and how do I say that? But I'd like to back up for a minute, Tara, because what I find with my clients is when I say, tell me boundaries you have, they don't know themselves. They don't know on their body what feels good and what doesn't, because they haven't slowed down to take that inventory of their body and their touch. And that comes about, on a number of fronts. From, we're told, as in religious wise, sometimes we're told you're not to touch yourself. And, there are appropriate times where you can touch yourself, but we don't talk about it in the family. We don't talk about it with ourselves, and we never give ourselves permission to know what touch we want and what we enjoy and what we don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's a great example, because I do think that's true. And in my book, Rediscovering My Body, there's a lot of exercises and activities for people to begin to catalog their own sense of what's true for them in the moment, of this works for me and this doesn't work for me. Because culturally, we often don't learn that. And I would say particularly as women, that we're not given the words or granted the agency. And I remember being a young girl and being told to apologize or told to hug a relative and like touch or connect with somebody, and feeling like I don't want to do that, but I'm supposed to. And so then initiating these things when I'm not feeling it as an adult. It's like, oh, where does that come from? It's like, oh, this sense of being polite. I was a
Yeah.
polite Catholic girl. And
That's
I
crazy,
still
Catholic.
am. I know.
I know you do bring that into your life, don't you?
I do.
But
I do. Yeah.
yeah. So, I just want to go on record saying, I say, touch yourself, play with yourself, enjoy yourself. Woo, woo, woo. That's what I think is great is, when you find that place where you can really explore and not feel that shame. And that's the other thing too, is I've had couples where one shames the other for self-exploration.
Yeah.
And so it's a new era where we are now talking about it. But what happens when I start talking about sex, people get like this starry-eyed, oh my God, here she goes. But truly, you can do and talk and discuss things that you need to with your lover in order to open.
Yes. Yes. I
So,
mean,
and
I would say, yeah, not only our lovers, but like we need to be speaking about it to children, like what are appropriate boundaries? How do we like to be touched? I mean, like what's a safe touch? I mean, those conversations happen. And how do we create sex positive conversations? So for all ages, so we're all learning how to have appropriate boundaries.
sure. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And it starts with you. I think
Hmm.
that's what I hear you saying.
Always. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So then how do we do that? How do we find where we are on our bodies and say, oh, that's pleasant or it's not? Like, I'm not into tickling. I don't dig it. I don't want it. And it'll shut me down in a heartbeat. And being able to tell someone who that's a something that they express themselves by, stop it. No, that doesn't feel good. And so learning how to speak those boundaries is really important. Can you say it to your partner without making them feel like they've done something wrong when clearly they just didn't know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's that other side of it where when they don't respect that boundary, yeah, you're killing any opportunity to connect with that person at that time. And then there's that piece where you have to come back and repair. You have to
Hmm.
repair the damage you do when
Hmm.
you don't respect someone's boundary. It's doable, but it has to be done in a way, I think, that's sincere. And there's two pieces to this as I see it. If I come back to you, Tara, and say, you know what, I violated your boundary and I'm very sorry about it. There's a way to graciously say, yes, are you open to talking about it? Because I want to share more. I may not be in a spot where I can hear it. And I don't want to feel every time I go with you and apologize that I'm going to get attacked too, because it's just going to shut down again. So it's a matter of learning how to communicate, I'm sorry, and then feel safe enough to know that the other person is going to respect where you're at and where you're going with it.
That's beautiful. I love that. I think that that's so important, and that we don't get many opportunities to practice that, is my sense.
Right. Right. And then the consistency piece. I'd love to hear what you say about that, because I think sometimes we go no, and then we go, well, and then you rethink it and you go, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal. And then you start waffling on where your own boundaries are. And what you're doing is you're sending a message to the other person that's not consistent. And when
Correct.
you're not clear about what you want and you're not consistent, it's the other two C's, I call them. You create conflict, and you create confusion. Now it's like, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what to do with this person, so I'm not going to do anything. And then that shuts down the intimacy you really desire.
Exactly, yes. And when I see a maybe is really a no. And so if somebody's not fully consenting to an activity or exercise or intimate experience, then it's no. And that a yes is a yes. And to really know somebody's no gives their power to the yes in a way different way.
Okay, I agree with you. But that was something I had to learn, Tara, because when I was growing up, maybe meant yes. Maybe she hasn't said no. He didn't say no. I can keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because
Yeah.
we're in that culture of driving, right?
Yep.
And so how does the person who's not educated in sexuality know? And the tides have turned, and rightfully so. And I celebrate that. But when you're not truly educated in that, when someone says, okay, that's a time for you to step back instead of saying, oh, the door's cracked, let me kick it in like the Fuller Brush man. I just dated myself, right? But yeah. Oh, the door's cracked. You don't come in when the door's cracked. When the door's cracked, you have to ask.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And I think that's a really sexy thing, is to ask and to be able to perceive or intuit or be that perceptive that you could see the other person's uncomfortable or they're not a full on yes. And then you begin to ask them that other person feels seen, feels validated. That's a really intimate, sexy connection.
Oh.
And yeah, and that's beautiful.
It creates that safety
Yes.
that I think many people are looking for to
Yes.
open it, which brings me to, I don't know how far along we are in time. I know we don't want to drag on, but when that boundary is set, it doesn't mean you can't move that boundary. See,
Hmm.
for me, my nervous system can handle within that boundary. That's what's safe for me, given
Yeah.
my relationship with that person. But
Yeah.
as that trust begins to grow, where I know that person's going to check in with me and make sure I'm feeling good, then I
Yeah.
can move that boundary out. And then the exploration can be even broader and wider. And what I love about that, that's not only in, like you said, in day-to-day living, because these are great rules for that, but also when you start expanding your sexuality with your partner. Like, do you want to explore some really great juicy stuff? Okay, but I'm a little scared. Okay, well, let's just take it a step at a time. And when your partner's willing to check in, it really allows for an environment to really explore and get excited.
I love that. And actually, I think that's a great place to end, because that is, yeah, that is a beautiful, beautiful reminder. It's like we can have so much more pleasure, we can have so much more expansion, and we can shift our boundaries when we feel comfortable and safe with ourselves and with our lover.
Yeah. Well, it was great
Mm.
talking with you, and everybody else. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today. Such a pleasure to be with you on International Women's Day. So let's celebrate
Woo-hoo!
women in our lives. Yay!
Yay. Yay. So long, Tara. Thank you.
Bye, Mary. See you next week, same time.
Yes. Next week, same time.
All right, where we're going to talk about.
I don't
I
know.
know, I know. I'm thinking, I just said it yesterday. I was like, this is important. Sexual turn ons. That's what we're
Oh,
talking about.
speaking your turn on. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It'll be
I'm so
fun.
glad I remembered. Yes. Okay. So join us next week. See you soon.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.